I remember her covered in snow in a field where each dead stalk of wildflower was thick with frost. The sky was pink in the hawthorns, the day held on the light edge of breaking. A woman carved from the bole of an oak, her feet, if she had any, buried in the winter's shedding weight. Whoever had turned her from the tree had given her an orb which she held in both hands, close to the gentle curve of her face. And she stood there, by the half-rotten stile off Broad Lane, head bowed, as though waiting to greet us and offer the frozen circumference of a new world. Years ago, our school had planted the woods behind her when I was 8 or 9, and now each tree ages alongside us. Every time I go back, I see a part of my life laid out, still growing in a field by the old village. I used to come here often, at 18 or so, with men at night, and it was strange to pass her as we stumbled in the undergrowth and into the woods like deer plummeting through wet branches. And I think now of all the men forced outside after clearing out into the dark spaces of towns, how they walk in vigil to woodlands and old estates to the smell of this day settling. Once I came here with a man whose whole body was muscled, so he too had been carved from a single trunk of wood. I pretended all the time to be a man like him, answering each lie in a deep, alien voice. I was afraid he would kill me. And walked a few steps ahead, hearing him moving through the sodden grass, pulling his feet from the bramble vines. We passed the woman without comment, though she stood there in her cloak of wood, the globe held in the lathe green of her hands. Here was so unlike the places other people went, a place without doors or walls or rooms, the heavy leafed branches pulled back like a curtain, and inside a dark chamber of the wood, guarded and made safe. The bed was the bed of all the plants and trees, and we could share it. And then the kneeling down in front of him, keeping my secrets still in the folds of night, trying not to shake in the cold, and the damp floor seeping up. I remember the cold water spreading in the capillaries of my jeans. As I looked up, the sky hidden under a rain of leaves, each tree stood over me in perfect symmetry with his body. Each was like a man with his head bent, each watching and moving and making slow, laboured sighs. I came back often, year on year, kneeling and being knelt for in acts of secret worship, and now each woodland smells quietly of sex, not only when the air is thick with it, but in the winter too, when the strains are grounded and held against the earth, and each time I half expect to meet someone among the trees or inside the empty skeleton of the rhododendron. And I wonder if I've ruined these places for myself, if I've brought each secret to them and weighed the trees with things I can no longer bear. But then what is a tree, or a plant, if not an act of kneeling to the earth, a way of bidding the water to move, of taking in the mouth the inner part of the world and coaxing it out? Not just the aching leaf buds in spring, the cloud of pollen, or in autumn the children knocking branches for the shower of seed, but the people who kneel in the woods at night, the woman waiting by the gate, offering to each visitor a small portion of the world in which they might work for the life of it.